So, as someone who was written about and lectured about and encouraged other people to think and act with their own economic interest in mind,
Hmm.
do you think that government will have a major role to play, government policy especially, in invigorating businesses in the black community, or is it going to have to come from the grassroots level?
Well, I think both, but the initiative has to come from uh, those of us who are out here on the grassroots level, the activists. We have to. There are certain things we have to do, certain sacrifices we have to make to show people that we are serious about what we say we want and need. Of course, the government can play a role in it, but I wouldn't want the government to be the sole provider of the things that we need. I think Thomas Jefferson said a long time ago that a government large enough to give you everything you need is also large enough to take away everything you have. So we must participate in the political system to shape public policy that's going to advantage us as black people. And politics is about self-interest. Unfortunately, over the last 40 years, although we've had some 12,000 black people elected to public office, we're still economically at the bottom of every economic category in this country. And there obviously was a disconnect somewhere in the last 40 years, and I say it took place around 1965 to 1970 or 1975. So while we do need the government to some degree, the government helped major corporations. If you know your history, major corporations got subsidies from the government. That's how they are what they are today. So I'm not saying that we pay taxes. I'm not saying we shouldn't get assistance from the government, but certainly we should be serious enough about our own economic destiny that we're willing to make the sacrifices, as Frederick Douglass admonished us. You can't expect to have crops with no rain and thunder. So we have to make some sacrifices and take on some struggle sometimes to make people know, to let them know we're serious about this. We're serious about our children's future. And we're going to build an economic legacy and leave it here for them. And we're going to do our part. We expect you to do your part. And if you don't, we're going to implement some kind of sanction against you. The problem with black people in this country collectively, number one, is that we don't stick together to a great degree to demand certain things. We know power concedes nothing without a demand, as Frederick told us. But the other issue is that we won't pool our resources, both intellectual and financial, to create a base, a foundation. When I started the Black Chamber, I insisted that the way we would start it would be with our money. And traditionally in Cincinnati, when people want to start things, they've got to run downtown to Procter & Gamble, got to go ask Kroger's, got to go. I said, no, we're not asking anybody for any money. If we don't put our money down to start this chamber with our dollars, we don't need it. We don't deserve it. We obviously don't want it. So the foundation was laid with black dollars. And then as we progressed, other corporations came in. Oh, we like to help. That's fine. But the foundation was there with our money. And I think that's true, and it should be true on a collective basis to move us forward in terms of economic empowerment collectively in this country. But we have to show that we're serious about it. How do you show you're serious? You put yourself in a position to be able to reward your friends and punish your enemies. How do you do that in this country? With dollars. With dollars. I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma about 3 weeks ago. Went to the Greenwood District, which you know was flourishing in the early 1900s. Some 600 black businesses had everything from restaurants to all the way up to an airline. Everything black folks needed, they had it right there in the Greenwood District. In 1921, it was destroyed, burned to the ground. Burned to the ground because an angry white mob came in and destroyed it. And 300 people were killed. You look at those kinds of things, and even though it was back then during segregation, it shows you what can be done among people who are collective in their struggle, among people who are committed to being economically empowered. And we could do the same thing today if we would just use our resources in a collective manner in support of one another, as other groups are doing in this country every single day. You look at the Vietnamese, they've only been here for 30 years. They control the nail industry now. Koreans control the distribution of black hair care products. The people who came from India and Pakistan, 2/3 of the hotels and motels in this country owned by them. There is no way we should have dropped the economic ball in 1965 and just went and to play the political game alone. We should have stayed on both. Nobody abandons their economic base. We did. And now we're paying dearly for it, trying to get back to where we were, to where our brothers and sisters were, to where our elders were in 1921 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So, you know, I have some real deep feelings about that and major concerns about where we are versus how long we've been in this country. We've been here since it started. And there's a lot of work to do on the economic side, and that's why I'm so committed to it.
So is that the message we're going to read when we visit your website?
Oh,
or
yes.
columns in the newspapers,
Yes.
letters to the editors?
That's right.
It's the same message?
It's the same message,
Economics?
economic empowerment.
Okay.
Economic empowerment. The only way we can fight in this country to make an impact is with our dollars. I always say the new battlefield is the marketplace, and the weapons are dollars. If we don't use that, use the $723 billion collectively that we earn, and it's rising, that we don't use that in some way to leverage the things that we say we want and need, and to build an economic foundation for our children, we're not being good stewards of what God has given us. We're just being slothful, as it says in the Bible. We are just squandering our resources. How can you have that much money and tremendous amounts of intellectual capital and not be further along and not be higher on the economic scale in this country than we are today? And even further back, relatively speaking, than our elders were back during the days of Tulsa and Durham, North Carolina, which was a flourishing business enclave for black people, and many other cities around the country as well.
Now, Mr. Klingman, I know you said you lecture in addition to the writing. You teach at the
Yes.
university level.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you find that your students, the members of the audiences where you lecture, that they are receptive to the message that you deliver, and are they acting on the
Now
information?
you just asked the right question. They're very receptive. I speak all over the country, and I tell people right off, I didn't come just to make you feel good. I came to say something to make you do good. And it's a message that is very well received because I didn't make it up. It didn't just start with me. Our ancestors put forth this message years and years and years ago, and they showed us what to do. My latest book, called Black on Knowledge, reconnects us to the knowledge that our ancestors passed down to us. They're saying, look, we showed you guys what to do. Why don't you just do it? And so I don't have any proprietary claim over this economic empowerment message. I'm just running a long line of griots, really, that continue to pass it down. So the message is well received. But now the acting part, the doing, you know, that's where I have issues. There's not enough doing. We know what we must do in this country. You can't tell me that as intelligent as we are, that we don't know what needs to be done. It's just the doing that seems to get in the way. And until we change that, we're going to find ourselves going, I think, further and further down on the scale as other groups continue to build up their economic base, surpassing us in a lot of ways. It's just